Welcome to Front Office Pros. I'm Steve, and I'm here with you solo today to talk to you about 3 players that you should consider buying now for the rest of the season and possibly beyond, especially for those of you who play in Dynasty. We're talking about players that you should stash on your roster if they're available heading into the offseason, or even possibly targeting them once the offseason is underway. So let's start talking about it. All right, so the first player I want to talk to you about is running back A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers. Now, he is a player who had a ton of buzz heading into the 2022 season, and he really didn't live up to the hype. But what we've seen recently is pretty promising, and I think we may have been a year too soon when it comes to the A.J. Dillon breakout year. For the past 3 weeks, A.J. Dillon has scored a touchdown, and most recently he had 11 carries for 36 yards and 2 touchdowns, with 3 targets for 3 catches and 35 yards. Within the past 3 weeks, he also has had at least 3 targets, so he's been involved in the rushing and the receiving game. One of the reasons why I think A.J. Dillon is a good player to target is he's entering into his last year of his rookie contract, and running back Aaron Jones will be 29 years old in the 2023 season, and he has a whopping $20 million cap hit. He is playing at a very high level still, but I'm not sure that the Packers will want to keep him at that price. It's possible they could restructure, but if they were to designate him as a post June 1st cut, they would be able to save $16 million on the cap. So he would have a dead cap of $4 million in 2023, and then a little over $5.5 million in 2024. So realistically, we could be seeing running back A.J. Dillon being the primary starter for this team. This team could look drastically different, especially not knowing about the status of Aaron Rodgers. He is getting older. He hasn't had as good of season this year, and there's a possibility that, will he retire? And I think that's a question that at some point he will. Obviously, the last offseason was pretty tumultuous, but A.J. Dillon could have the starting job heading into next season. And really, when it comes to fantasy, we have to speculate and wonder what's going to happen next and try to get ahead of that before it happens. And so running back A.J. Dillon is a great player to buy now and consider targeting him heading into the 2023 season. All right, so the next player I want to talk to you about is rookie wide receiver Jahan Dotson of the Washington Commanders. Last week, he had his most productive week, having 4 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown with 6 targets. All in all, he's had a decent season this year. Jahan Dotson's dealt with some injuries this year, which has definitely dropped his value some, but there's no denying his ability to separate. When it comes to the rest of the Washington Commanders receivers, Jahan Dotson is really setting himself up to be the wide receiver 2 in that offense. Curtis Samuel has been utilized quite frequently this year, but if you look at his contract, I question as to whether or not he will stay on the team in its current capacity. He has a $13 million cap hit next season, and if the Commanders were to designate him as a post-June 1st cut, they would save a total of $10.6 million with a $2.4 million dead cap hit in 2023, and then a $4.8 million dead cap hit in 2024. Now, Curtis Samuel will still be relatively young at 27 years old, so it's possible that they could even give him an extension. But there's no denying the talent that Dotson has showed. We don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. I highly doubt that Taylor Heineke will be the quarterback moving forward. They might draft someone or try to bring someone else in. You've already seen them trade for Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz has not been able to retain the starting role. But there's no denying Jahan Dotson's talent, and I think people in the fantasy community are underselling his ability, and you might be able to, it's going to be hard to be able to acquire him at this point if you didn't draft him, but it might be a good opportunity in the offseason for you in dynasty leagues to kind of check his value with that owner and see where they stand with the player right now. All right, and the last player I want to talk to you about is wide receiver Elijah Moore of the New York Jets. Now, Elijah Moore has had a difficult season this year, at one point being dismissed from the team and not even active during the 53-man roster. But recently, over the past 2 weeks, He has had some really promising production. This past week, he had 7 targets with 4 catches and 51 yards. And then the week before that, he had 10 targets with 6 catches for 60 yards, which I do think is telling because he was able to perform with Mike White as the quarterback, as well as Zach Wilson as the quarterback. He hasn't had the best rapport with Zach Wilson, but this is another situation where you can obviously tell that Elijah Moore is talented. Now, I don't know whether or not he will stay with the Jets long term. I think from his fantasy prospects, it's probably better if he does move from the New York Jets and goes to another team. But regardless, we see the level of talent with him, and I think it's best, especially in these situations, when a player is not in an ideal spot, to just hold on to them. Or if a team is really wavering on their support of Elijah Moore, this is a great opportunity to see if you can't acquire him. Because it's crazy to think, but even though he's already been in his second season, he's only 22 years old. He was a young rookie coming into the draft in 2021. And one of the things I like about him is that if he does stay with the Jets, wide receiver Corey Davis is going to be entering into his last year of his contract. And if you look at the cap hit, he's scheduled to have a little over $11 million in cap hit. And if the Jets were to release him, they could save $10.5 million. And I think that is a healthy amount. And considering the talent level of Garrett Wilson as well as Elijah Moore, this might be an opportunity where they decide to part ways with Corey Davis and allow for Elijah Moore to have more of a have an increased role in that offense. So Elijah Moore has went through his up and downs, and he might even be a guy, depending on how shallow your dynasty leagues are, that he might be available out in the waiver wire. And if so, you definitely should stash him. And it might be worth checking with the owner in your league who has wide receiver Elijah Moore in the offseason to see how they currently value him, because it's possible that you could get him for a discount based on where he was drafted in your draft and what in 2021 could be viewed as a sunk cost and be able to get him at a discounted price. So those are 3 players that you should keep on your radar as the season comes to a close and heading into the 2023 offseason. We recently became a YouTube channel talking about fantasy football and dynasty. And we would really appreciate your support if you've enjoyed these videos. You can do so by liking this video, hitting the subscribe button to our channel, and also hitting the notification bell. Because we do create several videos on a weekly basis so that you can be informed of the latest video. And go ahead and put some comments below. Do you agree with me on my takes with AJ Dillon, Jahan Dotson, and Elijah Moore? Happy to be able to hear what you have to say and have a conversation, and I'm happy to give any advice. If there's some players that you're wondering if you should stash right now or you should be targeting heading into the 2023 offseason. So thanks so much for watching, and until next time.